48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene, summarized by Detailed Book Summaries. Click on the subscribe button. Let us know in the comment below the book you would love us to summarize for you. Chapter 1: The Architecture of Power, Understanding the Game. Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power begins by introducing readers to the timeless reality that power is as old as human civilization and as inevitable as human interaction itself. Greene presents power not as something mystical or reserved for the elite, but as a social mechanism that appears in workplaces, families, relationships, politics, and even the quiet exchanges of daily life. He argues that to navigate life successfully, one must acknowledge that people continuously compete for influence, security, recognition, and advantage, even when the competition is subtle or unspoken. This opening premise sets the foundation for understanding the book's laws, not as manipulative tricks, but as tools for survival and strategic living. Greene draws heavily on historical anecdotes, using figures like Sun Tzu, Machiavelli, Elizabeth I, and Louis XIV to demonstrate how power has shaped human stories and how similar dynamics continue today. In this early part of the book, Greene emphasizes that the first step to gaining power is to see the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. Many people drift through life believing that honesty, transparency, or good intentions alone will bring success. Greene counters this belief, arguing that because people are emotional, insecure, ambitious, and often self-interested, power dynamics naturally emerge. Understanding this truth allows one to avoid being naive, manipulated, or blindsided. Greene also insists that every individual projects a persona, and the game of power revolves around understanding those personas while mastering the art of presenting your own. Whether consciously or unconsciously, people judge, compare, and position themselves relative to others. The wise person, therefore, must learn to read people accurately, decode motivations, identify insecurities, and anticipate potential threats before they materialize. The introductory sections of the book also make a strong point about the role of appearances. Greene argues that perception often outweighs reality. Throughout history, powerful individuals rarely revealed their true intentions. Instead, they crafted an image that inspired trust, fear, admiration, or confusion, depending on what gave them an advantage. This is not presented as deception for deception's sake, but as a strategic tool, because raw honesty can easily expose vulnerabilities that ambitious rivals might exploit. The book encourages readers to manage how they are seen, recognizing that in the game of power, being misunderstood or underestimated can be an asset when used wisely. Another key foundation Greene lays in these early chapters is the importance of emotional control. While many people act impulsively, driven by anger, envy, fear, or pride, Greene emphasizes that power grows in environments where logic and strategy outweigh impulse. A powerful individual does not merely react, they calculate. They do not mirror the chaos around them. They remain grounded, observant, and deliberate. This inner steadiness allows them to choose battles carefully, maintain leverage, and avoid traps set by more reactive personalities. Emotional discipline also enables them to study others without themselves being easily read or manipulated. Greene makes it clear that power involves a combination of self-awareness, observation, adaptability, and timing. A recurring theme is the importance of understanding context. A strategy that works brilliantly in one setting may backfire in another. Thus, Greene invites the reader to develop a flexible mindset, capable of adjusting approach depending on who is present, what is at stake, and what the long-term outcome should be. Strategic patience, he suggests, is one of the most underrated yet essential components of power. By the end of this foundational segment, the reader understands that the 48 laws are not rigid commandments, but guiding principles for navigating complex human interactions. Greene reminds us that even if one chooses not to pursue power for personal gain, others will inevitably use these principles, consciously or unconsciously, against us. Therefore, learning the laws is not merely about acquiring dominance, but about defending oneself in a world where competition is universal. This first chapter sets the stage for the practical exploration of power that follows, framing the laws not as villainous, but as deeply human, historically tested, and necessary for anyone seeking clarity, protection, and strategic influence in their life. Chapter 2: Mastery of Self, the Internal Laws of Power. Before manipulating situations or influencing others, Greene insists that true power begins with the mastery of the self. Many of the early laws revolve around self-discipline, emotional intelligence, and strategic restraint, qualities that differentiate impulsive actors from calculated leaders. This chapter explores how Greene demonstrates that the most powerful individuals in history were not the loudest, strongest, or most aggressive, but rather the most composed, reflective, and self-governing. Power, before anything else, is an internal victory. Greene emphasizes that one of the greatest weaknesses a person can have is transparency. Law 3: Conceal your intentions encourages readers to embrace the strategic value of silence. If others know exactly what you want, they can block you, sabotage you, or compete with you more effectively. But if your motives remain hidden, rivals are forced to guess, exhausting their energy while you move with clarity and purpose. Silence becomes a shield, unpredictability becomes a weapon. This approach requires emotional restraint, resisting the urge to overshare or seek validation, and cultivating the ability to observe without revealing your hand. Another internal discipline appears through Law 4: Always say less than necessary, and Law 30: Make your accomplishments seem effortless. Greene argues that power grows when others cannot fully grasp how you operate. Too much talking dilutes authority, exposes insecurity, and weakens mystique. When people cannot easily decode you, They project onto you qualities like intelligence, confidence, and capability, often exaggerating your strengths in their own minds. This psychological positioning gives you an advantage because it lets others fill in the gaps in your favor. The appearance of effortlessness reinforces this mystique. When achievements look natural, people assume you possess natural superiority, making your power seem inevitable and therefore difficult to challenge. Greene also focuses on emotional self-mastery through laws like Law 10. Infection, avoid the unhappy and unlucky, and Law 33, discover each man's thumbscrew. He emphasizes that emotions are contagious. Associating with the chronically negative or reckless drags your energy and judgment downward, while maintaining distance preserves emotional clarity. Simultaneously, understanding human motivation, what people fear, desire, or crave, requires empathy, attentiveness, and psychological patience. This understanding allows one to influence others subtly, not through force, but through knowledge of their inner world. Power comes not from overpowering people, but from understanding them more deeply than they understand themselves. One of the deepest internal lessons appears in Law 48. Assume formlessness, which Greene presents as the ultimate expression of adaptability. He argues that rigidity is the downfall of many powerful individuals. Once someone becomes predictable, their enemies can anticipate and counter their strategies. Formlessness means being mentally flexible, emotionally resilient, and behaviorally unpredictable. It requires the willingness to abandon old identities, pivot strategies, and shapeshift depending on circumstances. This mindset mirrors principles found in martial arts and Eastern philosophy. The strong tree that refuses to bend is uprooted by the storm, while the flexible reed survives. Greene also warns against the seduction of ego in laws like Law 1. Never outshine the master. Many people sabotage themselves by demanding too much attention or proving they are smarter than their superiors. Greene reminds readers that power often grows by subtly uplifting others rather than overshadowing them. Allowing a superior to feel competent, valued, and respected creates stability, protection, and opportunity. Challenging a superior's ego, however, creates resentment and invites retaliation. This law underscores the importance of humility, not moral humility, but strategic humility rooted in understanding human nature. Throughout this chapter, Greene paints a portrait of internal power as a blend of discipline, awareness, restraint, and strategic presentation. Mastery of self allows one to navigate complex social arenas with clarity and poise. It prevents emotional decision-making, reduces vulnerability, and builds a foundation upon which external influence can grow. This chapter reveals a recurring theme. Before controlling events or shaping outcomes, one must first conquer the chaos within. Greene shows that every powerful figure in history understood this, whether consciously or intuitively. Their internal mastery created the stability, focus, and consistency required to build lasting influence. only after developing this inner strength, Greene suggests, can one effectively move outward into more active forms of power. Chapter 3: Power in Motion, Strategy, Influence, and Social Intelligence. Once internal mastery is established, Greene shifts attention to how power operates in relationships, alliances, and social environments. He argues that influence is rarely achieved through direct force. Instead, it emerges through strategy, anticipation, and the careful orchestration of perception. Human dynamics are the battlefield of power, and Greene uses numerous laws to illustrate how subtle maneuvering can shape decisions, opinions, and opportunities long before overt actions take place. A central theme of this part of the book is the importance of strategic distance, captured powerfully in Law 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor. Greene explains that people often devalue what they see too frequently. Presence creates familiarity, and familiarity breeds a type of casual disregard that weakens authority. Powerful individuals understand the value of stepping back, of being scarce enough to inspire curiosity or longing. This absence makes their presence more impactful when they choose to appear. Whether in leadership, romance, or social circles, strategic withdrawal strengthens perception and increases influence. Another core principle Greene presents is psychological leverage. Law 11, learn to keep people dependent on you, describes how power is often maintained by making yourself essential to others' success or stability. Greene's examples show that the more people rely on your skills, knowledge, or support, the less likely they are to challenge you. This is not about exploitation, but about positioning yourself as irreplaceable. When others cannot imagine succeeding without you, they protect rather than threaten your position. Deception and misdirection also play major roles in this section. Law 21, play a sucker to catch a sucker, demonstrates that showing weakness can be a strategic disguise. When you appear simple, harmless, or uninformed, rivals underestimate you, exposing their true nature. Historical generals, diplomats, and business leaders used this tactic to lure opponents into traps by masking their true capabilities. Greene presents this as a defensive strategy as well. When you avoid appearing too eager or too competent, you reduce envy and suspicion, allowing you to maneuver more freely. Greene also emphasizes the importance of boldness with Law 28. Enter action with boldness. He argues that hesitation is often more dangerous than the wrong decision, because uncertainty inspires doubt and invites competition. Bold actions, undertaken with confidence, create momentum and force others to react on your terms. Many powerful people succeed not because they are inherently superior, but because they move decisively while others remain uncertain. This law connects to the broader theme that in the game of power, perception shapes reality. Boldness creates the illusion of certainty, which others interpret as authority. Social intelligence also plays a significant role in this chapter, especially through Law 43, work on the hearts and minds of others. Greene observes that people are not convinced by logic alone. They are influenced through emotion, storytelling, and personal connection. Successful leaders appeal to feelings, loyalty, pride, hope, because emotional persuasion creates deeper, more lasting influence. Power grows when people support you voluntarily, believing your success aligns with their own interests or identity. Manipulating emotions is not presented as cruelty, but as a recognition that humans respond more profoundly to inspiration than to instruction. Finally, Greene addresses the power of reputation in Law 5. So much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life. Reputation, he argues, is the social currency of power. A strong reputation opens doors, commands respect, and protects against accusations or attacks. A damaged reputation, however, creates vulnerability and undermines authority. Powerful individuals invest heavily in projecting consistency, competence, and strength, because reputation shapes how others treat them before they even act. Protecting, and if necessary, rebuilding reputation becomes a vital element of long-term power. Through these laws, Greene presents power not as brute force, but as a sophisticated dance between perception, timing, influence, and psychological awareness. This chapter reveals that power flourishes when one understands human behavior deeply enough to guide it without coercion. The most influential people do not simply impose their will. They shape the environment so subtly that others move in the desired direction, almost willingly. Greene's message is clear. Power is most effective when invisible, and strategy is most powerful when woven seamlessly into everyday interactions. Chapter 4: Defense and Offense: Navigating Danger, Enemies, and Competition. In this section, Greene shifts toward the defensive and offensive aspects of power: how to protect oneself from threats, neutralize opponents, and handle competition in complex, sometimes hostile environments. Power, he argues, is never static. It attracts envy, fear, and resistance. Those who rise must learn how to stay vigilant, anticipate danger, and act decisively before threats escalate. This chapter focuses on the darker but necessary realities of navigating ambition in a competitive world. Greene emphasizes the inevitability of enemies through Law 2. Never put too much trust in friends, and Law 15. Crush your enemy totally. While these laws may appear harsh at first glance, Greene uses historical examples to show that misplaced trust and half measures often lead to downfall. Friends, driven by emotions or unspoken envy, may betray you more readily than enemies. Enemies, on the other hand, tend to behave predictably because their motives are clear. Meanwhile, Greene argues that allowing an enemy to survive or recover can create long-term instability. He does not advocate cruelty, but underscores that power requires decisive action. Unfinished conflicts invite revenge. The idea of unpredictability as a defensive tool appears strongly in Law 17. Keep others in suspended terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability. Greene shows that being too predictable makes you easy to manipulate or attack. Unpredictability forces rivals to think twice, question their assumptions, and hesitate. This hesitation gives you time, leverage, and psychological advantage. Historical leaders, from military commanders to corporate executives, have used unpredictability to unsettle opponents, keeping them cautious and reactive. Greene also highlights the importance of intelligence gathering in Law 14. Pose as a friend, work as a spy. He argues that information is one of the greatest resources of power. Understanding others, motivations, weaknesses, fears, and desires allows you to anticipate actions and influence decisions. Greene is not promoting disloyalty, but emphasizing the value of observation and subtle inquiry. Many powerful people disguise their intelligence-gathering efforts as casual conversation, listening more than speaking. This law reinforces one of Greene's core principles. Knowledge is leverage. Defensive power also appears in Law 33. Discover each man's thumbscrew, and Law 39. Stir up waters to catch fish. The first teaches that every individual has a pressure point, a fear, desire, or insecurity that shapes their decisions. Knowing this helps you avoid unnecessary conflict and handle opposition more strategically. The second law encourages creating controlled chaos when clarity is needed. When people are emotional or confused, they reveal truths they might otherwise hide. Stirring the waters helps expose intentions and vulnerabilities, giving you insight into how to move forward. Greene also explores retreat and withdrawal as forms of offensive strategy in Law 22. Use the surrender tactic. Rather than resisting every challenge, sometimes yielding temporarily creates long-term advantage. Surrender can disarm opponents, buy time, or shift power dynamics. It requires humility and patience, but it can neutralize a stronger enemy by redirecting their aggression or creating an opening for strategic reversal. Greene illustrates that surrender is not weakness. It is a deliberate repositioning. Another key concept is exposure and concealment. In Law 6, court attention at all costs, Greene shows that invisibility is dangerous. Being unknown invites disregard. But Law 18, do not build fortresses to protect yourself, warns against isolating yourself. Power requires visibility and connection, but not overexposure. The balance lies in staying informed, engaged, and socially present while avoiding isolation, which breeds vulnerability. Greene also addresses managing conflict in Law 20. Do not commit to anyone. He argues that tying yourself too closely to a single ally limits your options and makes you vulnerable if that alliance collapses. Staying independent gives flexibility and prevents entanglements in conflicts that do not serve your interests. Ambiguous loyalty can confuse rivals and maintain your freedom to shift alliances as needed. This chapter ultimately teaches that danger is inevitable in the pursuit of power, but vulnerability is optional. The wise individual learns to see threats before they grow, neutralize enemies without hesitation, and protect themselves through vigilance, adaptability, and psychological insight. Greene demonstrates that power is a constant negotiation between offense and defense, and those who succeed understand that both sides of strategy are essential. Power is not won through aggression alone, but through foresight, cunning, patience, and the willingness to act decisively when the moment demands it. Chapter 5: The Grand Strategy, Longevity, Legacy, and Mastery of Power. In the closing movements of the 48 Laws of Power, Greene turns toward the long-term practice of power, how to maintain influence, build a legacy, and ensure continued relevance even as situations, rivals, and environments change. Power that is won through clever tactics, but not sustained through wisdom, eventually fades. This final chapter reveals the mindset, discipline, and flexibility required to transform temporary advantage into enduring authority. Greene begins by exploring the importance of foresight in Law 29. Plan all the way to the end. He argues that many people fail not because they are untalented, but because they think only in the moment. Long-term planning, anticipating obstacles, preparing contingencies, and envisioning outcomes creates stability and power that does not crumble under pressure. Planning does not mean rigidity. It means clarity of direction. With a defined end in mind, daily actions become more focused and missteps less destructive. Long-term power also requires independence of thought, illustrated in Law 34. Be royal in your own fashion. Act like a king to be treated like one. Greene explains that self-respect and personal standards shape how others treat you. When you carry yourself with dignity, confidence, and purpose, people instinctively assume value and authority. Conversely, those who seek approval, appear desperate, or compromise their identity lose influence quickly. This law teaches that internal value becomes external power when displayed consistently. Greene also stresses the importance of timing in Law 35. Master the art of timing. Power requires not only the right actions, but the right moment. Acting too early or too late can turn a brilliant strategy into a failure. Historical figures who mastered timing, diplomats, revolutionaries, innovators, did so by observing the environment deeply, waiting patiently, and striking when momentum favored them. Timing becomes a form of intuition sharpened by experience and attentiveness. Another theme of longevity involves controlling narrative. Law 25. Recreate yourself encourages constant reinvention. Greene argues that people who cling to old identities become predictable and irrelevant. Reinvention keeps you adaptable, interesting, and difficult to categorize or undermine. Powerful individuals evolve continually, shedding outdated roles and embracing new ones. This fluidity connects to the book's final message in Law 48. Assume formlessness, the ultimate state of adaptability, and the capstone of all power principles. Greene reaffirms that long-term influence also requires protecting your autonomy. Law 40. Despise the free lunch warns against dependency. Accepting favors can create obligations that compromise independence. Likewise, Law 41, avoid stepping into a great man's shoes, teaches that following directly in the footsteps of a predecessor invites comparison and diminishes individuality. True legacy comes from creating something new, not replicating what others have built. In the final themes, Greene highlights emotional detachment, calmness, and self-mastery as the sustaining forces behind stable power. He suggests that powerful individuals do not simply conquer situations, they conquer themselves repeatedly, maintaining discipline even during success. Power attracts attention, envy, and challenge. Without internal strength, these pressures can corrupt judgment. Greene insists that humility, reflection, and the willingness to reassess strategies are essential for remaining effective over time. The book ultimately concludes that power is neither good nor evil. It is a neutral force shaped by the intention of the individual who wields it. Greene presents the 48 laws not as commands, but as tools that help individuals navigate a world filled with ambition, insecurity, manipulation, and competition. By understanding these laws, one gains clarity about human behavior, insight into social dynamics, and the strategic awareness needed to achieve goals while protecting oneself from exploitation. In this final chapter, Greene leaves the reader with a single overarching truth. Power belongs not to the strongest, loudest, or most ruthless, but to the most aware. Awareness of self, of others, of timing, of context, is the foundation on which true, lasting, meaningful power is built. Those who cultivate this awareness rise. Those who ignore it are governed by those who do. Through its blend of history, psychology, and strategy, the 48 Laws of Power offers a blueprint for understanding influence, not as a dark art, but as an essential compass for navigating the complexities of human life. Click on the subscribe button. Let us know in the comment below the book you would love us to summarize for you.